All right, we are live today at SEO Leadership, and today we have on a very exciting guest, Tom Gandhi. He is the head of SEO at NOVOS. NOVOS is an award-winning agency. They won the eCommerce Agency of the Year 2023, and they are an employee-owned, data-led e-commerce SEO agency. They provide e-commerce brands with strategy, followed by consultancy, content, and digital PR to accelerate organic growth. So yeah, Tom, we caught you at a very exciting time. I'm just expecting a lot of growth and exciting news coming from Novos. So we're very excited to have you on the podcast and chat about it. So yeah, how are you keeping today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for the introduction. I'm so really happy to be on here. Seen a lot of you guys. You're very noisy on LinkedIn and at events and stuff. So it's hard to miss you, but yeah, really pleased to be on here. Things are going well. Yeah, I think we probably all know last year was a pretty strange year generally, from especially from an e-com lens. But definitely 2024 is looking really strong so far. Loads of exciting projects, clients, wins. So yeah, it is a really good time, as you said, to kind of be speaking. And I'm a couple of years into my head of SEO kind of journey as well. So hopefully I've got some really nice insights that people can take away from this as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So Tom, if we could just kick things off with that, just leading into that, can you tell us a little bit about your career progression, how you got into SEO, how you ended up at Novos, and yeah, just a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think with SEO generally, no one through school thinks I'm going to be an SEO when I'm older and I start work. So I went to uni, studied events management, and a module of that degree was marketing, and it was to do with
Okay, that's not me.
Did you lose me there?
Sorry, I think
we lost you for a second.
Okay, hopefully I'm back. So yeah, I don't know where I got to, but events management and marketing module in there, which kind of gave me some insights. And then I did a placement year at Performix at the time. So I did 6 months with them, which I was working in the SEO team on the Aviva account. So that was like my first real taste of SEO. Before that, I hadn't heard of it. So it was just like a complete stumble across it, which actually most people kind of do have that kind of process where they just stumble across things. And then, yeah, from there, kind of finished up my degree in the fourth year in London. And then I started at Artifact, which is the place I was before, NOVOS. And then just kind of I'm the kind of person that just wants to get as much responsibility as possible. And to do that, I kind of just did as much as I possibly could to learn as much as I possibly could, as quickly as I possibly could. And I was given a lot of responsibility at Artifact, which then put me in a really nice position when I was approached for a role at Novos, which was almost 4 years ago now. Literally just as COVID was happening, they offered me a role. And then, yeah, kind of, I guess the rest is history there. And since I've been at Novos, so almost 4 years, I think in September, so not too long away. Started there as a kind of senior SEO strategist, became SEO manager, and then the head of role opened up, and so I went in for that. And then, yeah, kind of been there for the last 2 years, almost. I think it's 2 years now. Yeah, so pretty good, pretty quick rise, but yeah, I think totally around 6 and a bit years in SEO now, which has gone very quickly. Things have changed massively in that time as well.
Definitely. And in terms of, I know you said you were always keen for the responsibility. Was that responsibility when it came to sort of managing bigger clients or taking on like a bigger workload, or was that responsibility in sort of people management and wanting to lead a team?
I guess all of those things. I knew always an important step is to learn how to manage people. And I don't think anyone has ever mastered managing people, because everyone's so different, right? But it's a super insightful way to level yourself up and level kind of your personality skills and personal skills. That's a really important step. And then also managing bigger accounts, bigger budgets, more complex clients. So when Artifact kind of gave me a really good insight into, I worked on M&S International, which was my first kind of foray into e-commerce SEO, I loved it completely. Thought it was really exciting, fast paced, exactly kind of what I wanted. And in the technical aspects, I'm probably more like 70% tech and 30% content just by nature. I still love the content side, but I just have more of an affinity with the tech side. And so, yeah, both of those things for sure. Like when they came up and I was always pushing for them, can I work on this account? I really want to work on that account because it's exciting, it's big, it's, you know, shiny, it's new. So putting myself out there, I think that's always a really important thing to take away from that comment is you can't learn if you don't put yourself in an uncomfortable position to grow. And that's definitely what I try to do. And I still try to do, to be honest, to this day.
Definitely. And in terms of, we have quite a lot of maybe senior exec level candidates who are sort of debating whether to go maybe into a more specialist role as an individual contributor, or into a sort of SEO manager position where they're sort of leading, 2 or 3 other people. What advice do you have to somebody to sort of incorporate and get over that sort of the fear of now it's sort of the buck relies on them and they have to sort of lead a team?
Again, it's kind of get involved. I guess there's not always just one.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Is it?
Sorry.
All good. But yeah, I guess. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's different progression routes, I guess. Some people just don't want to manage at all, and we get that all the time at NOVOS. Some people love managing, and again, that's absolutely fine. But knowing that there's not only just one route of progression, I think that's a really important thing. That's not always that clear. So if you have an affinity with something, perhaps yes, managing people is always a really great skill to have, and it's useful in everyday life to have that. Yeah, I think that the important thing here is there isn't just one progression route. If you are and do have a specific affinity with something, don't be afraid of if you fail, because that's ultimately how you learn and how you'll grow as a person. So yeah, as a senior SEO, when I was that, I think I managed 2 people, and I've always liked working with people or speaking to people, and that's kind of why I'm on this with you guys, because I'm always happy to do that, because I know there's insights that people take away from this that can help them to kind of progress in their careers as well.
Brilliant.
Cool. I wanted to ask a bit more of I guess a personal question. And knowing that you guys just came out with this e-commerce agency of the year award in 2023. Not that awards are everything, but knowing that you came from entering NOVOS during COVID to winning an award last year, how have you sort of managed the team through just different levels of motivation and adaptability, from something like dealing with the pressures of COVID to entering back into how we are now and bringing them to a stage of winning an award?
Yeah, super difficult. I think COVID was a challenge in itself. We're mostly remote team. We do have a lot of London people in the team now, so we do see a lot of each other, but it's not like it used to be pre-COVID where you were always together. So there's definitely some challenges that have come with being more remote, especially from a learning and development point of view. But that being said, we've always brought on people that are right culture fit for NOVOS, but also they have the right skill set and the right knowledge. So having e-com experience is obviously a fundamental part of what we want. And obviously bringing the right people means, yes, it takes a bit longer to find those people, and you have to spend a lot more time on that recruitment process. But the end result means that you get people on that are are better integrated and a better fit for the team and for the clients that you work with. And as a consequence of that, that means that you then have better performance for your clients, because the team know what they're doing, they know how to achieve results, and that then puts you in a really strong position to kind of apply for these awards. And obviously the awards, definitely they're not the be all and end all, but they're an amazing achievement, and that's something that you should always work towards. Ultimately, all we want for our clients is to perform well and perform successfully, and then because we have the right team members in place to achieve that, it puts us in that nice position to always have a client to put forward for those awards.
Brilliant.
Awesome. And just to build off of that, sorry, Darius, just to build off of that as well, has that sort of affected your goals and how you want to structure the team moving forward in the future? Are you looking at further expansion, and how do you sort of view team structure at the moment?
Yeah, so that's always been an evolving piece for us, because it is really hard. People have, as I mentioned earlier, not everyone wants to manage a team. Not everyone wants to speak to clients. Some people just want to manage a team and not speak to clients. So it is hard, and there's not always a position for everyone in that regard. We have specialist routes, we have managers that we try and do as best as we possibly can for the team to kind of ensure that they understand and know their progression paths and what they can do to get to certain levels. But it is on that. I think that's probably one of the hardest things to achieve. Is you're never going to make everyone happy because it's impossible. You can't always just manufacture new roles, but you can kind of give some clarity and give the exposure and experience to the team members that you can, like, within what you're able to give them. But yeah, you're not able, like, it's not always possible to keep everyone happy, because it's, ultimately some people might even end up thinking, actually, I don't even want to do SEO anymore. And if you opened up a role for them who perhaps they were in between, like, maybe I want to do SEO, but I want this particular position, you go through all the effort to create that position, and then they end up potentially leaving because they don't want to do SEO entirely anymore. So you've got to be a bit careful. You don't want to completely overhaul a system that's clearly working, but you do want to make sure that there is some flexibility there and what we can do for people in a team.
Awesome.
Definitely. And Tom, you mentioned about you touched on clients previously. We find that a lot of our clients, obviously, whether it's agency side at the minute, whenever it comes to them actually bringing on new clients and getting clients over the line, that there seems to be taking a lot longer than what it did maybe a year or two ago. Do you have any advice for other head of SEOs or anything like that on how to maybe push that client over the line a bit quicker?
Yeah, I think it's just genuinely a kind of part of where we are in, I guess, especially in the UK, cost of living and that sort of stuff. Investment in COVID was obviously huge. You had loads of like private equity investment, even in ideas that perhaps like wouldn't have ever warranted it previously. And then off the back of that, profitability really wasn't a focus at that point in time, because COVID was COVID. Everyone was shopping online. Nothing else was open. You couldn't do anything else but shop, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then obviously we came out of COVID and budgets were restricted, pulled back because people hadn't achieved profitability. And so now there is a big emphasis on profitability. How can we get the most of it out of a channel? And ultimately, as a consequence of that, things are taking longer to sign off. Like, we're definitely seeing the timelines become a lot longer than they have been previously. But that's not a bad thing, because at the same time, throughout that period, you can do more due diligence and you can speak to the client even more, make sure you're the right fit for each other, and do all the appropriate pitching and forecasting and stuff like that we'd always do anyway. But I guess that, to answer your question, do as much as you can to prove the value that you can give to them, not just monetary, but how you can become part of their team, how you're going to work with them, how they can maximize the value out of you, and obviously, like, how are you going to drive the most ROIs as a consequence of all of these things combined.
Perfect. And then what really came up, as I mentioned just before the call, we were at Digital Lofts event yesterday, and what came up quite a lot was the team structure that I know you just spoke about as well. How important is it, do you find, that teams aren't siloed at the minute? Because that was the whole a lot of talks were revolved around the team need to be cohesive, whether it's digital PR and SEO working together. How crucial do you think that is for you guys at the minute?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we've always strived to do. It is, again, it's a hard thing to do, because ultimately someone in digital PR doesn't have an affinity with SEO, and someone in SEO doesn't have the affinity of digital PR. But having some basic knowledge, which is what we're always trying to kind of impart on both teams, is, what do things mean? How do they impact each other? And then how do we make sure we're reporting cohesively? I think the reporting part is really important, but also the way that we do our strategies is we leverage opportunity to kind of get us some insight into, like, what should we be going after? Where should we be building links? And how will we measure the return on investment of those links? And what's the impact on our SEO performance as a whole as well? So yeah, really important to try and keep the teams as cohesive as possible. It's not always going to be like, they're not going to be one unless they're an SEO and a digital PR at the same time. But there is a significant value if you are able to work together, improving that ROI. That'll be a much easier task if you built links to a category that you knew was a focus point for the SEO strategy as well. And then with all the links that you've built there and all the SEO like on-site changes and that you've made, you then can measure the benchmark of prior, like pre-implementations to post. And that's such an easy sell then to a client to say, this is where you were, this is where you are now, because we've been doing work on that category.
Yeah.
So yeah, to have that cohesion is a really important part of it.
Perfect. And I know we spoke to, I think, Amanda Halls. She owns Cedarwood Digital, and she said that she gets the teams to maybe like, you know, a digital PR to work and do like an SEO role, you know, briefly for, you know, a week or two for a client, just so they understand it better, and then vice versa and things like that. Or is there anything that you guys are doing to make sure that maybe like digital PRs do have a bit more of a knowledge around SEO and vice versa?
Yeah, so a lot of the emphasis we put is around like the reporting part, is understanding the value of the work that you're doing. Because I think in digital PR, there's definitely a lot of ambiguity around what is a link. You know, ultimately, you could all build links to anywhere on the site, but how do you quantify the value? If a client says, okay, you built 50 links, great, but what does that actually mean for us? We've spent X amount of money on digital PR, but we can't actually tangibly report on the value that that's brought to our business, and that we know it's a good investment to be making. So having the baseline of SEO is really important. And obviously understanding from an SEO's point of view how digital PR also works is a really important part of what we're trying to balance all the time. So we definitely brought in some new team members in digital PR that are more inclined to reporting and understanding the value of the work that they're doing, which then will infiltrate them within the rest of the team that perhaps weren't so privy to how the kind of synergy between SEO and digital PR actually works in actuality.
Brilliant.
I just wanted to ask, or sort of migrate the conversation more towards identifying the right time to hire and just bringing it back into team structure. Just off the bat, if you had to bring on a new team member right now in the period of growth that you're in, are there like any particular skills that you look for within them, either soft skills or tech skills? And could you name any, like maybe 3 of those?
Yeah, so we have 2 project managers in-house, and they've kind of helped us to forecast 3 months into the future of what resource is going to look like. That obviously gives us a real nice bit of clarity on when we think things might get a bit tighter and when we need to be thinking about perhaps recruiting. So that's obviously one really important step, because you know, reactively hiring could be problematic in its own right. Like, it means that you might have 3 months, because obviously notice periods can be 3 months nowadays, maybe longer, that you might be really tight resource wise otherwise for 3 months, and obviously that's just a horrific experience for everyone involved, and for clients as well. So that's a really important thing that we've put in place much more recently. We've always obviously looked ahead, but this is more from that capacity management position. And then we kind of, I guess, we know how we are as people and as an agency, and how, you know, we interact with each other. So during that interview process, it isn't just a case of do you have the knowledge, but also like how well can you communicate the knowledge that you do have. And I think in SEO, definitely it's then, you know, we're not the most personal people always. You obviously get some people that are like, I would consider myself to be personable and able to speak to pretty much anyone, but that's just not a common thing in SEO. Not really. Like, if you're more technically focused, you might not want to talk to clients all the time. You know, you might not want to do that account management side. But also having those soft skills is so important, because ultimately, like, yes, you can be a robot, and yes, you can deliver everything you've said you're going to deliver, but if you haven't got a good rapport with the client, they're not going to stick around for a long time, because they want to work with someone who feels like an integrated member of their team rather than an external agency, which, you know, I think we've probably all seen it before, where you do feel just like an extended, like a completely disconnected part of what they're doing. So soft skills, able to speak to clients, and also just able to simplify your knowledge for people that obviously don't have the knowledge that you do. And that's, again, a really important one, because SEO, there's loads of acronyms. If you say all of those all the time, no one's ever going to understand what you're talking about. But if you can kind of simplify that and then be able to explain it and the client understand it, you know, that's a really good skill to have. And that we kind of get that insight from the tasks that we set. They're not always simple tasks, and I'm a big advocate for kind of putting them in the position like I'm the client. I'm asking them questions about the data that they pulled, or why they've pulled it, or why they've presented it in a particular way, so that you can kind of see how how their the skills to answer those questions, how they are, and if they can do it, and if the answers are good. And ultimately, sometimes it comes down to nerves, and you've got to accept that is a part of it. But also, you'll know if someone has a lot of knowledge but just cannot, for the life of them, actually explain it. And obviously, you can see the disparity quite quickly when you do that.
Brilliant. And when it comes to hiring, Tom, are you guys remote at the minute, or are you sort of hybrid in London?
So we're hybrid, yeah. We've actually just moved to 1 day in the office. You'd think after 4 years since COVID, internet would be better than it is, but anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're hybrid pretty much. So yeah, 1 day in a week if you chose to do that, or you can be a remote worker as well for us.
Okay, because I was going to say, obviously London's quite competitive, especially when it comes to sort of SEO agencies and things like that. What do you guys incorporate anything into like your hiring process, or even like your job description, stuff like that, to help you guys stand out?
Yeah, I think a lot of our benefits are really good, and obviously we are now employee. Very few agencies are in the employee-owned position, which is a really nice thing to have. A lot of agencies will sell to the highest bidder basically, and then kind of that whole culture just dissipates as a consequence of that. So that there's a trust that's always looking out for the team members, and that's a really nice thing to have on the job description. Is like that is what we are. Helping, like, just general benefits are really good. But then I think also what we stand out is that we are e-commerce only. Yes, there's some more people in that game now, but when we first started out, we were like one of the only, if not the only, in the UK, and we are still by far the biggest team of e-commerce SEOs in the industry and in the UK specifically. So that obviously is a huge selling point. If you are wanting to get into e-com SEO, or you already have the experience, you want to go to somewhere that has been doing it ever since the conception of the agency, which is almost 6 years now. So I think those kind of points are hopefully make it an easier decision to go with us rather than perhaps a competitor.
Definitely.
I actually wanted to ask, I think that on the topic of side projects, if you're looking to hire someone, does that particularly stand out to you if someone's doing side projects on the side? And do you have any tips or advice to any SEOs that are maybe looking to join someone like NOVOS? Is anything in terms of a side project that would stand out to you?
Do you mean like freelance projects?
Yeah, or like
anything.
affiliate sites and things like that maybe like somebody with like 2-3 years experience is just maybe testing something out on their own site before they like bring it to clients and things like that.
Yeah, I think actually that's it's not something that I've ever done, but I've always done a lot of freelance work, and so it kind of gives me that. It gives me that anyway. It's that I can try things that I wouldn't always be able to try if I didn't do the freelance work. So I'm a big advocate for that. And obviously, if you come and you've got a test site and you've tested those, that's such an important part, because we can never sit still as SEOs. We need to always be innovating and progressing and pursuing new opportunities that perhaps we've never tried before. Because if we're just doing the same thing everyone else is doing, we're not at an advantage in whatsoever. So having those side projects, whether it's a Shopify site of your own that just got dummy products or actual products or whatever it might be, that will obviously put you in a really nice position if you can prove that you're doing those things, and actually that as a consequence of them you've implemented X tactic and actually it's driven this sort of performance increase on the site. That's an amazing asset to have if you are coming to us. And if you're freelancing, I think a lot of SEOs freelance, same as digital PRs, to be honest, on the side of working. And I think that's not something to look at negatively. Obviously, if it's impacting your work on a day-to-day level, that's a problem. But actually, I think it's complementing, if anything, because a lot of the time, they're smaller businesses you're working with. They're not like we would work with on a day-to-day. And the amount of things you learn on those to apply to that day-to-day is only valuable for NOVOS and for the rest of the team, because you're able to impart those learnings onto the team as well. So that's definitely what I've found.
Brilliant. And obviously you're in a leadership position at the minute. What sort of style do you implement in terms of your leadership? And was that sort of picked up from maybe somebody who was a good manager towards you in your earlier career?
Yeah, so I kind of had to adapt quite a lot over time, and definitely into 2024, I've kind of taken a different approach. But my manager in the past, that previous role, she was very much like, here's a task, even if it was completely alien to me, she'd be like, go and do this, and this is what you should kind of come back with. But I'm not giving you any kind of insight. Yes, that can seem harsh, but actually it's a really good thing to learn how to do, to research and research and research until you can come back with an idea of the answer that perhaps is pretty close to it, but it just needs refinement. I think that's a really important way to learn. Like, someone can talk at me for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I probably don't remember any of it what they said to me, unless I'm doing something, I'm learning something, and I'm applying something. That's obviously a really great way for me to learn personally. But I think in SEO specifically, it's a really great way to learn quickly what works, what doesn't work. So that's one point there. And I think perhaps what last year kind of taught us is accountability. Is you can't do everything on your own. You can't solve all the problems on your own. And if the team aren't all pulling in the same direction to achieve the end results, then you're never going to have the kind of success that you want. So take a step back, gives them that responsibility and accountability to kind of lead on their own. And you're actually very much surprised at how well they can do by kind of stepping back and not, I hate micromanagement and I'd never do it. But I think we're potentially a little bit guilty of a little bit of that last year, just because the climate was crazy. Like clients came, clients left because they ran out of budget or whatever. There were so many different reasons that you could never have foreseen. And, you try and stem that as best as you can. And that kind of might have ended up with a bit of micromanagement. So moving into 2024, it was all about take a step back, really lean on the team that have the expertise and are really good at their jobs. And actually, since we have done that, we've had quite a lot of changes in the team anyway. But since we've done that, it's definitely been a really positive step for us to have taken. And that's kind of resulted in us really thriving and growing and progressing as a team. I think the next big step for us is like really pushing for development and training, which is, always trying to achieve growth and performance for clients is great, but you also need to really nurture the internal team as well. And so that's a big focus for us this year is to really level up on the training that we're doing.
Brilliant. Love that. And in terms of do you think taking a step back and letting people be a bit more autonomous, does that achieve sort of more motivation for the team? And what other sort of steps do you take to make sure that the team are constantly motivated?
Yeah, exactly that. It's not nice someone constantly looking over your shoulder, checking what you're doing. So that's completely, completely happened. And I think they're a lot more comfortable, happy, and they feel supported. But all the things you try and achieve, which is, making them feel comfortable, supported by being a bit more micromanaging, you actually are pulling that off them and away from them. So yeah, it was the right intentions, but now, they definitely are in a great position there. And also just transparency on the business, what's changing, what's new, with clients coming, clients leaving, getting people really involved in all of that, so they don't feel like it's just things are happening and they don't really know what they are, because that means that there's like unity. Then everyone understands what the business is, everyone knows what clients we have, what clients are leaving, what objectives and projects we're working on as a team, what the direction of the business is. And there's a lot more buy-in because transparency is so important. It's not nice, I think, like kind of being out of the loop and not really aware of what's going on.
Yeah, love it.
Awesome. We've actually been chatting a lot between the team about the important onboarding and important processes that companies do. Are there any sort of processes that you guys do for NOVOS, and anything that's sort of noteworthy and stands out? Alternatively, is there anything that you could advise to other maybe SEO managers or heads of SEOs that are looking to improve their onboarding processes? Nothing. Perfect.
Oh, honestly, so annoying. Yeah, I heard the question. So all good. I heard the question. So we kind of overhauled our onboarding process very recently. We've got quite like 5 or 6 new starters in a 2-month period. So we had to make sure that it was really set in stone, really. And it's basically 3 days of really getting to know the team, getting to know the processes that we work to at NOVOS, also understanding like fundamentals of the business, like where we've come from, like what we're all about, like what we strive for, getting up to speed on what strategies look like, how they work, how we work with clients. So it's a lot of reading, I think, initially, but that might sound mundane, but it's really a really important step, because if you don't know who we are and how we work, you won't be able to kind of integrate as quickly into the team. We always do a new starter lunch, and that's not just for the manager and the person starting, it's for the whole team that's in on that day. And also we try and get as many people to come in on that day as someone starting as possible, just because it's nice to put a face to a name, and also to meet as many people as you can. Otherwise you feel like, oh, I'm going to go home, I'm going to be remote for the next 3 days, I'm not going to actually meet anyone for ages. So that's always a really nice step. And more from like a manager's perspective, just like we've just brought on a new manager who's been awesome so far. And rather than just getting them straight onto client accounts, where you kind of then lose what you've just come from, it's a lot of what she's doing is just observing at this point, seeing how the team works, getting to know the team, how they work with clients, how they speak to clients, so that they can adapt their kind of approach to managing each of those people, rather than getting stuck in the weeds. Because I think what is always really valuable when new people come in from different agencies or different clients, or different brands, is if you get stuck in straight away, you lose all the brilliant processes or ways of working that you think really worked at your previous company very quickly. And so I'm a big advocate for spot some issues for me, because I've obviously been here for ages. I might not see issues that you see, and also like come to me and say, these are some of the issues. This is actually what we used to do at my previous company to address that, or this is what worked really well that I don't think you're doing yet. Because I want to take as much of the value from a previous agency as possible, and obviously apply what really worked there to what we're doing here, rather before it all gets a bit too much and actually the new person is already part of NOVOS and they've forgotten about everything they've done previously. So that's always a really important part for me, is to bring on as much knowledge as you can as well.
Brilliant.
Sure, I love that. That was a very interesting point to end on. Yeah, thank you so much, Tom, for coming on. Very interesting discussions, and we really enjoyed chatting to you, and we
likewise
hope to chat soon as well. And good luck for the rest of the year, and we will chat soon.
Yeah, hopefully see some events in as well.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll be around.
No, awesome.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cool.